Hey guys, it's Jamie from Footsore Miniatures here, and today is the first in a weekly series from Footsore Miniatures. Every Friday tune in for a new video with a different hobby tip or tutorial. The first 12 videos will use the miniatures shown to show basic painting skills to allow us to get our figures on the table quickly and pleasingly. All miniatures and products are listed and linked in the description below. And today's video concentrates on prepping your miniatures for the painting process. We often see on social media questions about metal miniatures chipping, how to deal with mould lines, and how to glue minis together. This video will talk you through how to use various tools correctly to create miniatures that are resistant to chipping, are cleaned correctly, and are ready for the painting techniques we will explore over the rest of the series. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, as it really helps us out. This video is quite a long one, so I recommend grabbing a nice drink, sitting back and relaxing. Please feel free to provide suggestions for future videos, as well as asking any questions. Now, to begin with, we should always wash our miniatures. During the casting process, metal miniatures will have talcum or silicone powder applied to them to identify casting issues. Often when people find their miniatures are chipping or paint is failing to stick to them, it's actually because the powder is forming a barrier or falling off the miniature and taking the paint with it. All we need to clean the white metal is washing up liquid, warm water and a toothbrush. I scrub the miniatures thoroughly before placing them to one side to dry. Once scrubbed, I use just warm water to remove any excess cleaning product, as this can also affect paint. The models are left aside to dry whilst I grab my tools. The most important aspect of cleaning miniatures is having the right tools for the right job. A pair of good hobby clippers are a must. You want sharp clippers as to clip the metal rather than just bending it, and they will deteriorate over time, so be sure to replace them. Next, sanding sticks in different grades, from very coarse to very fine, are also recommended. These ones are actually used for manicures and nail care and are available very cheaply off eBay. A craft knife is always useful, ensuring that the blade is sharp and to replace regularly, especially when working with metal figures, as the blade will blunt quite quickly. I always keep stocked up on smaller sanding sticks, which allow me to shape metal easier when removing mould lines without damaging detail. Finally, needle files are also recommended. Personally, I use Tamiya needle files for hobbying, as they last a long time and come in some useful sizes and shapes. The majority of this video will be about showing the various applications of these tools and where to use them. Clippers are used to remove any large flash, metal left over from feed lines and any individual components. We use the flat side of the clippers to ensure a close cut to the edges, but if you cannot get close enough, cut as close as possible and remove any remaining bumps of metal using a sanding stick or a file. Miniatures are made using a two-part mould, and where these pieces meet we will find a thin line of metal called a mould line. To remove smaller mould lines, I use a sharp craft knife and lightly drag the blade along the surface. In order to ensure the surface is not flattened out and noticeable as a former mould line, I take a small sanding stick and shape the metal back by filing at the correct angle. When removing mould lines from fragile parts, it is a good idea not to use sanding sticks or files, as the pressure might break the component. Therefore we use just a knife and are careful to be extremely gentle. You will notice throughout this video that I wear latex gloves. This is to help primer adhere to the model later. It keeps the model clean of anything on my hands, including natural oils, which can form a layer between the mini and the primer. Larger mould lines can be removed quickly using larger sanding sticks. However, we do not use these near areas of detail, instead swapping back to smaller sanding sticks. Some mould lines will be in hard to reach areas, either physically or because they are close to detail. For this, we use needle files in different shapes to suit the purpose. Where mould lines are in details such as hair, hands or beards, we follow the lines of detail using a fine round file. Sometimes it is needed to use a blade instead, being careful not to damage any detail. Hopefully this gives you an understanding of basic cleaning using files, sanding sticks and a hobby knife. Each tool is suited to different tasks and areas of the miniature, dependent upon detail, surface area and extremity of mould line. I will now show you the entire process in motion on an Irish hero I am working on and be back afterwards to discuss further miniature prep and priming. The next step, once all parts have been demould-lined and are now looking good, is to polish the model using a wire brush. A metal scourer would also work. This seeks to remove any oxidation on the metal. A polished surface will take primer better and is much less likely to chip than a surface that has not been polished. It is best to do this as near to priming as possible, as if you polish a miniature and leave it on prime for a length of time, there is a risk of oxidation occurring and removing the beneficial effect of polishing. The slightly abrasive nature of polishing also creates a stronger bond between the primer and the metal. In the same way, basing material and glue dries stronger on a lightly sanded or scuffed base. However, no detail is affected as this abrasion is very slight. I use a large sanding stick to flatten the base ready for gluing. I then use fine superglue to attach any parts. I do not put the superglue directly onto the miniature, as this risks flooding the detail. Instead, I pour it onto a disposable surface and dab the part into the glue. I use fine superglue from Loctite. It dries strongly and fastly and is so thin that if I do make a mistake, it probably won't affect the detail of the miniature. White metal can be a very flexible material, especially if the part is thin or narrow. If a part is bent out of shape, gently and lightly bend it back into the desired position. When parts are small enough or the join is small enough that I simply cannot dab them into the glue, I use a toothpick to apply the glue to the desired areas, in this case the hand of the Irish hero. This means that I have no risk of flooding the area. It is a lot easier to apply more superglue to strengthen a bond than it is to remove excess superglue. Metal miniatures come with a casted metal base. I like to hide these for a more believable miniature. In order to do this, I mix PVA, polyfiller and sawdust and apply it to build up the base. It also provides a base for any groundwork in the future. The PVA helps it bond strongly to the base, whilst the sawdust makes it dry roughly and quickly. This is a quick tip I really feel adds to the finished look of the figure. I texture on top of the polyfiller and metal base using Vallejo white pumice. I feel sand can sometimes obscure the feet of 28mm miniatures, looking more like they are sinking than standing on top of the groundwork. This is the right size for me and any excess can be removed while still wet using water and a brush. Now the number one tip from me when priming metal miniatures is to use a lacquer based primer. This can be a car primer in a can. Personally I like Halford's grey primer. Or if using an airbrush like me, Alclad 2 Lacquer Grey is perfect. Lacquer primer has a very strong bond and is extremely unlikely to chip. It provides a great base for our paint and it also goes on extremely thinly so it does not obscure detail. It also comes in tons of different colours. I like grey as a general usage, as it's dark enough for blacks and dark blues, but light enough for flesh tones and bright colours. Always wear a mask and be in a well ventilated space when working with a solvent based paint. Hopefully you can see here how thinly the primer goes on, leaving all that lovely detail for us to paint. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please feel free to comment any questions or suggestions. And I will be back next week to show you how I tackle painting the metal areas on these miniatures.
Hear ye, hear ye. Footsore Miniatures, 28mm historical miniatures. Footsore takes pride in the highest quality metal models, available in the UK, US and worldwide. Footsore believes in delivering high quality products. Find out more at footsoreminiatures.co.uk.